Shot is no good. Rebounded by Anthony. 2 seconds left. Anthony for the win. Cody throws it. Cole Anthony gives the Magic a victory.
Close Up Magic.
All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Close Up Magic. I'm your host, Stephen Cameron, and today's a really fun episode today. We have Al and Anthony from the Ozone about to join us. But before they join, we are, I want to remind you guys, of course, that this podcast and now video stream. I hope this is exciting for you. This is the first episode of a video stream. So let me know how you like it. This is like a free trial that I'm doing with this platform. I like it a lot, so I'll probably upgrade and start seeing like my logo in the background and all sorts of other features that get unlocked with that. So let me know what you like, because testing it out, would love to see how it works for you as a listener and watcher. This podcast or video is sponsored by the 19 Media Group. If you haven't been familiar with them yet, which you've probably heard me talking about them, go check out 19mediagroup.com or on Twitter. It's run by a really good group of people. Mo, Jabari Davis, Warren Shaw, just some solid individuals in the Twitter world that are just passionate about good content. And they have loads of podcast and video like streams on sports and life and all sorts of different topics. So check out 19 Media Group. They're great at supporting me and I love supporting them. So that's enough of me talking. Let's go ahead and bring Al and Anthony on from the Ozone Podcast. Al, Anthony, welcome to the show. How's it going?
What's up, man?
You guys doing good?
Good. I'm actually, this is by far, easily, I'm going to say right off the back, by far, favorite episode. Not just because now you're doing video, but also because you allowed us to be, your first guest as you do video. So already a fan favorite.
I love it. I appreciate it. I mean, hey, it's been a minute since the three of us are in a couple of group chats like online. So we talk here and there throughout the season, but it's been a minute. I think, Anthony, you and I were talking before the show. It's been like maybe almost a year since we connected when I was on your show last season. And fellas, I apologize. I should have had you on the show long ago.
It's all
bad.
good, man. It's all
my
good.
bad.
I agree. Long overdue, but we're here now. And it's exciting. Like I think this is my first episode, like directly after a win. Maybe not directly afterwards, but like the last game we played the Bulls, we're recording this on Tuesday, January 25th. And the Magic last game was versus Nikola Vucevic and DeMar DeRozan and the Bulls, where we actually got a win. That was really crazy and really fun and exciting, because I think not only was it a win, but it was one of the few like comfortable wins. What were your overall thoughts on that game in general? Al, I'll kick it to you first. Sorry.
Perfect. No worries. I think, man, it was an electric environment in Amway. So I had the pleasure of being there that night, even though there were so many good football games on Sunday night. And I debated, like, do I go to the game? Do I not? I am so glad that I did, because not only did Jalen Suggs put on a show, but you know how it is at Amway, man. Half of the arena, if not more, was Bulls fans. So
Sure.
to actually shock them and take such a commanding lead after halftime and hold on to it, which was the hardest thing, it was impressive. And then, of course, that fourth quarter, it felt like everything just kind of fell right in. Suggs with the dunks, Wendell Carter, a couple of big plays in the fourth as well. So an electric Amway Center, which honestly, it had been at least a couple of months. I think since we beat Utah was the last time that I felt Amway be so exciting. And mind you, it's our third win at home all season. So it was really fun to be there. Long overdue, that's for sure.
Al, have you gone to a lot of games in person this year?
The majority of them. So
Nice.
I have season tickets. My goal is to go to every single game. There's been a few this year where I'm like, I'm going to go, but I'm like, I know we're going to lose. I'm not going.
Sure.
But yeah, I try to go to every game.
That's
cool.
cool.
Al's extremely dedicated. Definitely makes it to, what would you say? You missed like maybe 2 games, if that, maybe?
If that, yeah.
I'm a new father, so I got a baby at the house that takes a lot of my attention and time, so it's really hard for me to get to the games. But you can hear, like, watching the game from home, you can hear the Bulls fans just through the speakers at home, and you can see that they, in the beginning, it seemed like they were kind of taking over a little bit. And I think what made that game so fun is the fact that we literally got a little bit of everything. You got a lot of
Jalen Suggs. You got a lot of, Wagner's. We got a lot of really exciting things that happened. And man, that game was fun. I think I spent a little too much time after the game, talking to a lot of Bulls fans. There was a lot of back and forth after.
Yeah.
But it was great, man. It's a well-needed win, and something that we definitely needed to see at home way more often.
I'm not a new father yet, but my wife is pregnant. We're having our first child at the end of March. So I'll be hitting you up, Anthony, for all the tips on how to balance podcasting and parenting at the same time. But I was watching it at home as well. And dude, I was cheering and yelling. My wife's in the kitchen and doing some other things, walking around the house. And she's like, are the Magic actually playing good? Because, she'll watch and keep up. She knows enough about the season to where she knows we're not a good team. But she was getting excited. And then, to just cap it all off to I'll say this. I'll just I want to talk about us and the Magic Twitter and the broadcaster from the Bulls. I personally didn't mind what he said on air about, oh, you have 8 wins. Cause cool. You're the broadcaster of another team, and we do have 8 wins, and your team, which is amazing and having a really great season, is going through a really hard stretch. So you're probably frustrated as well. So I'm not really upset about his comment, but what ticked me off more was all the comments he made on Twitter going back and forth with Magic fans till eventually I stepped in. Did you guys see that with, I forget the broadcaster's name, but did you guys see that with
Jake Chapman?
No, Jake Chapman, and then
is it Stacey King?
Stacey King, yeah. He was going back and forth with Magic fans for a minute there. There's a little Bulls Magic broadcaster civil war there for a second.
I think what made it interesting is the Magic fan base, we're so used to listening to David Steele, and you really don't hear that type of negativity in a sense where he's kind of talking bad about the other team. Never, not once.
They're pretty PG. They're pretty PG.
Absolutely,
which is great.
And we got the absolute opposite. And it was a good back and forth. I understand his perspective, because his perspective is you guys are losing. You really shouldn't be showboating like that. I get that, but you're talking about a rookie in Jalen Suggs that really had a really big play over DeRozan, nonetheless, where it was a massive dunk, and he's screaming, he's yelling, he's hyped. If you're not getting that reaction from your rookie, then we have a problem.
What are we doing here? Yeah,
exactly. Like that wouldn't be the type of guy that I want on my team representing the Orlando Magic. So I don't know what he expected. Why wouldn't you expect that?
My sister, super casual, probably the second game she's watched all year, and only because she was at the game in person with one of her friends. She's texting me and my family. She's like, "Oh, that number 4 guy, he's so cocky." And I had to explain to her after that. I was like, "Well, hold on. First off, he's a rookie. We're the worst team in the league right now, and he just had this injury that he was out for 6 weeks, and this was probably one of the biggest plays of his career in a game where they're actually winning at home, and just kind of stapling things in the a really amazing quarter for him." And then she kind of took it back and understood a little bit more where I was coming from, or where he was coming from. But it was interesting. That quarter was a lot of fun for me. It was a little frustrating seeing Jalen's shot not fall earlier in the game, even though he was still very much being impacting the game in positive ways, with his defense, just keeping the ball moving, driving, getting to the free throw line. But just seeing him have that thunderous dunk, and then that steal followed up with the 360 dunk at the end, just to put the icing on the cake, was just fantastic.
But you know what's funny? That whole sequence, people kept thinking that he's going at it with the Bulls, the team, the Bulls.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the case. He was actually going at it with a fan, which, mind you, again, there was 1 million Bulls fans in that arena.
Sure.
Apparently, somebody said something to him at some point during the game. So the whole Magic City highlighting his jersey, that was actually him getting back at that fan saying, "Shut up, we're in Orlando, this is Magic City, this is our town, I'm here." So it's funny how the commentators are taking it as he's yelling at the Bulls players, and that's not the case at all.
No.
So again, if you're a Jalen Suggs fan, a Magic fan, you love to see that, because our city, honestly, our team has needed that kind of attitude. One of the reasons why I like Mo Wagner so much, Cole Anthony so much, is because they're finally being outspoken. They're putting respect into the city of Orlando. And I mean, let me ask you guys, when was the last time you felt that kind of energy on a Magic game? Like, the only thing I can think of is Matt Barnes back in the Dwight days. After that, am I missing anyone? Like a player that brought that kind of energy to the team?
I don't think we had a player that brought, like, I mean, Fournier was definitely a passionate player, right? Yes. And he was very energized. But in general, that team, I was not debating, I was in a conversation a little bit with Six Man on Twitter this morning. And, you know, whoever was running the account this morning from the Six Man show had talked about how, you know, it's been so long since we've experienced a team this passionate. And I just came back and was saying, you know, long story less long, that, you know, this team is very passionate, but I think the last generation was just as passionate, but in a different way, where that last team was very introverted. Vucevic didn't even have an Instagram. He was only on Twitter specifically just to engage with like Magic fans for the most part. Evan Fournier and Aaron Gordon, like they were on like Instagram and stuff, but it was like kind of more like, you know, either they're like Evan's family and like kids, or like their fashion stuff, since they were both like kind of in the fashion and like AG into music. Like they weren't like this big extroverted, outgoing group of young men that we have now. And, you know, you got, and I don't mean to bring social media as like that's who they are on the court, but I think just these younger guys being more into like that aspect of life and just being more exuberant with their, it just seems like we have a bunch of extroverted people, whereas before we had a bunch of introverted players. See if that makes sense, you know? Am I kind of hitting the tone there?
Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense. You know, this is definitely the most millennial group that we've had. So absolutely. And I think the part of the social media is that it allows for them to be connected in a different way, to where, you know, previously it would just be, you would go to practice, go to games, go home. And then unless you're texting or calling, that was pretty much it. But with social media, from Cole Anthony, you know, reposting every little thing that comes out of the Orlando Magic social media page, kind of just hyping up his teammates, Wendell Carter doing the same, RJ Hampton, whether it be on Snapchat with Cole, like whatever the case may be, you can really see that they're definitely more synced in that way, because they're connected all day long. So it's not just game practice, it's game practice and outside of that. But I agree, Al, man. What I love the most is the fact that when that incident happened with Jalen Suggs, like he pointed at his chest, like his chest says the Orlando Magic. The first person that comes to mind with that is the Hiro Turkoglu, the Steve Francis.
Yeah.
Those highlights of them really highlighting the name on the chest. And I think that as much as the Bulls commentators didn't like it, I think they underestimate how big and how much that means to the Orlando fan base.
It does.
Because the reason why he's so hyped is because he hears the Bulls fans. He hears, and it's not just the Bulls, it's every other team that strolled by and played a game at the Amway. And you get to a point where he can say that he wants to build a culture and he wants to change that all he wants. But from any player, any standpoint, any sports, that's going to bother you a little bit, especially at home, because at home is supposed to be sacred.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. So we, as Magic fans, always complain about other teams like hearing their chants at home games, particularly with like the Knicks and the Heat and the Lakers and Warriors fans now. Part of that is just the team being young. We don't have that deep NBA history that like Boston and Philly and the Knicks have, because we're a younger team in the league. We're one of the younger cities that has a basketball team too. Orlando is a pretty young city in retrospect to some of those other types of cities that have basketball teams. And it's a very transient city, right? Like we've all grown up in Florida. I no longer live there, but you have plenty of people that are moving to Orlando and Central Florida on a regular basis from other cities that are fans of other cities. I think having Suggs and players that are passionate about wanting to change the culture on the team, as well as them like being so active on, a few of them, not all of them. Suggs is actually fairly quiet on social media, but like having Cole and RJ and Bamba being a little bit more active on social media. So when like someone is wanting to like follow a Magic player online on a social media page, like they'll find them and they'll see their engagement like, oh, hey, like once the team starts getting wins and then they start seeing them online more, like it's going to change and start slowly shifting the culture to that atmosphere that we all want it to be. I mean, at the end of the day, winning is going to be the biggest factor, but these little things that like the players caring and then them being able to be more accessible to the fans and the people of Orlando with their online presence, it's going to be huge. It's going to really be huge. What do you guys think?
Yeah. And don't forget also, all of these players that we have, the majority of them, I feel, have a chip on the shoulder. They all felt like they were drafted lower in the draft than they should have been, from RJ Hampton to Cole Anthony. Jalen Suggs could easily say, hey, I feel like I'm better than Jalen Green, and to some degree.
Sure.
So I think that also plays into the whole situation. They feel like Orlando, people are overlooking them, which with good reason. We're young, bunch of injuries. That's the reason why. But they really feel like they're building something special in Orlando, and that whenever they're healthy again, it all starts to click. They're going to blow up and be, a decent team in the East that can make some noise. So I think that combination of them feeling like they're better than what they were projected to be and the team really being better than what they've shown so far is what's leading to this, like, we want to show that Orlando can be a great destination. But not only that, I'm also a great player that can represent this team, not only now, but down the road as well.
Totally. To on your point, like them feeling like they are better than what they are. Let's transition over to Markelle Fultz for a second. He's a player that is really close, from what we understand, to returning to the court. A lot of us were expecting him to come back during this homestand. I believe there's 3 games left during this homestand. So he's still out for the injury report for tomorrow's game. But what type of impact do you think he, in your opinion, is going to give to this team? Because it's clear that, in my opinion, that we could use his help. But I want to hear what your thoughts are on that first. Anthony, I'll kick it over to you.
I think the number one thing is going to be the ball handling. We've had concerns with Jalen Suggs and his ability to be able to handle the ball. Cole Anthony, to me, there's times where he gets a little ahead of himself, where I've had concerns with him playing, not necessarily playing the point guard, but there's times where I feel like he needed support. And I feel like Markelle is going to be that calmness in the storm, where you have him in the game and his IQ on the court and his vision by far, there's no one touching him right now, in my opinion. And I think that when he's in the game, everyone's going to be able to be more involved in a different way that we haven't been able to see before. And I think that that's the part that's the most exciting, with Markelle being so close coming in. How is his dynamic going to really work with Cole Anthony? How's his dynamic going to really work with Franz Wagner? And I think that by now integrating him with the team that we have, it's going to be a brand new basketball team that we've seen now that the full year that he's already been gone. So I think that at the very beginning, because I would imagine that we'll start putting minute restrictions in him in the beginning so he really gets acclimated. But I think that I'm not expecting him to go out there and score 22, 25 points. I'm expecting him to go out there and really get everyone involved first. And I think that what more in the beginning can you really ask for of Markelle Fultz?
Yeah, I mean, you're hitting the nail on the head. I like we've been wanting that primary ball handler on this team for a minute, and Cole's definitely stepped up in that area, but is still not that guy that we need yet, that game manager. Suggs looks like he can definitely handle the ball a bit, but has some work to do before he should be a primary ball handler. If he ever gets to that point, he might just be a combo guard for the rest of his life, the rest of his career, where that can handle the ball at a high level, without necessarily being like the primary guy. I always relate to Drew Holiday, someone who can run point guard duties, but at the end of the day, half the time you want him next to another point guard type of player. Al, what about you? What are you missing most with Markelle Fultz and him hopefully coming back maybe as soon as this week? Maybe. I think for me personally, it's the playmaking, kind of similar to what Anthony mentioned. Playmaking and pushing the ball, pushing the tempo a little more. The Magic have tried to do that with Cole Anthony and Jalen Suggs, but you can see that how young they are sometimes. They get caught with not knowing what to do in that fast break, which leads to a turnover or a bad shot. I think Cole Anthony can definitely help the team when it comes to that. Grabbing that rebound, pushing the ball, finding that open teammate. Looking at stats quickly, Cole Anthony, 5.8 assists per game, is the one leading the team right now. 4 assists for Jalen Suggs. But when you look at the turnovers, Cole Anthony, 2.7 per game, Jalen Suggs, 3.3.
that's kind of washing off those assist numbers in a way.
Yeah.
That's where I think Markelle can make a huge impact on the team. And also looking at, again, a guy like Cole Anthony shooting 39% from the field, 32 from 3-point range. With Markelle in the game, attacking the basket at will, he'll find himself open way more than he is at the moment. So you can no longer collapse on him, throw two guys at him. That will lead to more open looks to our teammates in the team. So I think that's the biggest impact that he will have is easier baskets will come because he's on the court.
I think we're also going to just see, like, once he works his way up to, I mean, even on the second unit, like defensively, he's just going to help tremendously. He's a big bodied 6'4" guy. You know, him and Jalen Suggs next to each other, that's going to be ridiculous. I'm very excited with that. You know, him, Suggs, Franz, you know, next to Wendell Carter, like defensively, that should really, really step things up a bit. I'm excited for this team to start doing, you know, Clifford was really good at this with his teams, but like getting the basics down, like limiting turnovers and stuff like that. I think Fultz, I think you're right, Al, with Fultz being able to help fix up some of that stuff because he spent so many years in Clifford's system that he's going to have that mentality already. So I think that's going to be a huge help for him to start shifting part of the on-court play with some of that stuff. So I don't know. Do you guys hopefully you think we see him back before or after the trade deadline? What's your we haven't had him back now. What are your new expectations, or have your expectations shifted to when you think he might come back?
My expectations, it expired a long time ago. Like the minute that it was December and we still didn't see him, at this point, I'm not even getting my hopes up. In my opinion, it would kind of make more sense after the trade deadline, because at this point now it's really no rush. Like we've only won 9 games. There's no chance that we're really going to be able to battle to get anywhere near, you know, the play-in tournament. None of that. So let's get that out of the picture completely, right? At this point, it's really how healthy is he? How long do we want to make sure that he's ready to go? Because at this point, if he's really practicing with the G League, it's really more of a concern of his conditioning if he's already practicing with the G League. So at what point, you know, does the front office feel comfortable enough to finally get him on the court? And with the trade deadline, to me, it would make sense for J.I. and Markelle to come after the trade deadline. That way when they get acclimated with the team, is with the team that they physically have. We really don't know what's going to happen with Terence Ross, Gary Harris, maybe Mo Bamba. Really don't know. It makes more sense to me to bring them back with the actual team that we will have after the trade deadline.
I sort of think that if we don't see Fultz come back during this homestand that a lot of people were wanting to see. I think our last home game is on Sunday versus the Mavericks on the 30th. If we don't see him there, I think you're right, Anthony, to where it makes more sense to bring him back after the trade deadline. Just simply because, you know, there's already going to be a break coming up. So like, just go ahead, ease him into it a little bit more, and then just like jump right into it after the break with Markelle Fultz and hopefully J.I. They haven't been as transparent about J.I. yet, so you know, I'm optimistic we'll still see him this season. There's still a lot of games and a lot of basketball left to play. So, Al, any contradictory thoughts to any of that?
No, 100%. I think I actually tweeted that today. I think I said that with the trade rumors being Terence Ross, Gary Harris kind of going out, it's perfect to say, hey, Markelle, step in right now and play the minutes that Gary Harris is playing or that Terence Ross is playing. So it makes perfect sense. And it also allows us to showcase those vets a little more to those teams that want to have a second look or a more in-depth look at how they can impact their team. Ideally, we all had the hopes, right, for his comeback to be this week. It made perfect sense. But it seems more likely that it will be probably 2 weeks from now once the trade deadline is over.
Well, realistically, too, I mean, there's an aspect to this that the front office might be purposely holding him out until after the trade deadline because they know it'll be easier for Coach Mosley to make the rotations cleaner. You know, having him in with Fultz, with Suggs, with Anthony, with Gary Harris and Terence Ross. You know, there's a little bit of space there because RJ's out right now, but that's kind of complicated trying to reintegrate someone else, you know, that's also playing the guard position as well. So, you know, you move one of those vets and it makes it a lot easier to reintegrate him into the team.
Now, in regards to Jonathan Isaac, do you feel as if the Magic will follow the same path that they have for Markelle Fultz? So before, finally activating Jonathan Isaac, do you see them kind of transitioning him through the G League first before coming with the rest of the team?
I wouldn't even be I do. I wouldn't be surprised if in some ways he's already starting to get integrated with them. Mm-hmm. I think they're being more quiet about Jonathan Isaac than they are about Markelle Fultz, just because of Jonathan Isaac's injury history already, right? And not like, I think Markelle Fultz can handle a little bit of pressure coming back from this ACL right now. I think Jonathan Isaac might be able to handle the pressure, but they're probably not wanting to add that extra pressure that comes with giving those tiny little updates. So I don't know. I was talking to someone about this earlier today offline, that like in theory, I think if games mattered, both Fultz and Isaac could probably play today right now. So it wouldn't surprise me if we saw them both return around the same time. But at the same point, like if he's not with Lakeland right now or getting close to it, they're probably going to want him to spend at least a couple of weeks integrated with them, integrating with the Magic roster on their practice days, just to get a little bit more run and comfortability on like contact practicing. Because the reality is the Magic don't practice much, right? NBA teams don't have a lot of practice days because there's so many games within a season that, they're lucky if they practice once a week. So, yeah, I think they'll ease him in, but I still hope we see him relatively soon after the trade deadline. Maybe he's closer to All-Star break.
Yeah, but I think what's interesting is that you're actually seeing Markelle and J.I. travel with the team now.
Yeah.
You're seeing the videos come out of them actually shooting around in practice. So I think that's
shout out Kobe Price.
Yes. Thank God he's doing those things because otherwise we would have no idea.
Yeah.
But I think that's exciting for us to see that, hey, that's kind of happening. They haven't talked about J.I. too much, but seeing those videos lead us to believe that he's close or that he should be at least back within the next maybe month and a half, which would align to maybe that All-Star break timing.
Now, do you see there being more outside media coverage for Jonathan Isaac's first return onto the court? Just how polarizing everything's been.
Probably more so, but not because it's basketball related. I think he's had enough stuff not basketball related with his book, being a little bit more outspoken about some health stuff that's been going on, to say it as simple as possible, and participating his next career as maybe an anchor for a news studio. I think there is a possibility that we get some of those non-traditional sports coverage people to come to those early games once he starts coming back, at least his first, maybe his second game, to get his first thoughts after basketball and ask more stupid questions. What do you guys think?
Man, it's tough. I know on the podcast we've talked about this with J.I. and the book and all the things that have kind of transpired, and my opinion has been simply, personally, stick to basketball. I love the guy to death. I want him to come back and do well for the Magic, have a great career. But I think, unfortunately, when you throw politics into the game of basketball, and unfortunately, the way the world is working today with this whole vaccine situation, it can throw a lot of negative things into the locker room, into our fan base, into our Twitter, Magic fandom. So I think for me personally, I'm focusing on the basketball side of things, and I just kind of hope that people will do the same. But I understand it's a topic that people have opinions on, and again, that's what makes it so polarizing.
I actually stopped following him on all social media platforms, not because I don't support him as a basketball player, but I was so tired of hearing stuff that was not basketball related and that skewing my opinion of him of a basketball player, right? I don't necessarily agree with all the stuff that he is involved with off the court. There's some stuff that's fine. There's some stuff that doesn't bother me. There's plenty of stuff that does bother me or that I just simply don't agree with. And it was starting to affect we should trade this guy. Well, I mean, there's probably plenty of guys on this team that I don't agree with some of their political opinions. They're just not vocal about it. And so I don't know that. So I think of them in a much more different light. So I actually just stopped following J.I. for a while, to kind of just recalibrate my opinion of him of a team player. Right. So that was that. Speaking of trade deadline. It is coming up, right? And we've mentioned a couple names already. But it's rumor season. I haven't gotten too deep into specific rumors, but there was a rumor that came out that the Magic have talked a little, or the Cavs could be a potential trade partner for Ross or Harris, that the Lakers and the Jazz are potentially interested in Ross, which I'm not surprised in, because when he was in free agency, he did say the Jazz were interested in him a couple years ago when he was like in free agency before he re-signed with the Magic. So let's just start off with Terence Ross and Gary Harris. Those are the two big names that are expecting to be involved in a trade, one or possibly both of them. Al, I'll send it to you. Do you have a particular trade idea that you like for one or the other of them, or both?
I think realistically, I know we want a first-round pick for Gary Harris, right? Like that would be like the dream scenario for Magic fans. I think realistically, I'm looking at him like Evan Fournier last year. Whatever team he goes to, really it's a rental. You're renting him for a couple months, that playoff push, and then either he's going to resign with that team, which will be great for them. Otherwise, like Evan Fournier, he may just walk out and go to a different team. So I don't think, unfortunately, that a team would go ahead and give us a first-round pick for him. Maybe a future pick. I can see that happening. And then again, there's the issue with the money that he makes. He makes over $20 million a year. That's kind of hard to match. So that could be an issue. So realistically, I can see 2 second-rounders being offered to the Magic by a playoff contender. Terence Ross, different story. The guy has a year left in his contract. His contract is very easy to match in the trade scenario. I could definitely see a team. I don't think the Lakers, I don't think they have enough or a enticing first-round pick for the Magic to want. But I could see a team like Cleveland, a team like Utah coming in and saying, hey, we'll give you a first-round pick next year or the year after for Terence Ross and either an expiring veteran, kind of like Otto Porter last year, or a young prospect that we may like and say, hey, he's not playing well for you. We'll take him off your team and give him a chance here in Orlando to continue his career and see how he can do with us. So that's kind of what I can see happening with either one of those players. I don't know if both get traded, to be honest. I think they might only trade one.
Yeah.
But if the right offer comes along, I think they trade both, again, if everything that they want is offered.
I sort of agree with Gary Harris. His play has definitely stepped up, so he might have a little bit more attractiveness to him. If it's gonna be a first, it's gonna have so many protections on it that like it won't be lottery. It'll definitely be lottery protected by whatever team sends it to us, and it might not even convey into a first. Just because you're right, he's expiring. They're getting half a season with him, and then he could walk depending on who it is. Now maybe depending on the team, depending on how his agent has handled things, maybe there's been some communication on some teams that he would consider re-signing with. So there might be a little bit more something there, but ultimately, unless it's involved in a bigger package, I think it's going to be some light protections and then some bad, potentially like a bad, or not a bad, but like an unwanted contract that team no longer wants, that we can absorb for another year because we got plenty of cap space. Anthony, what about you, man? What are you thinking for the trade deadline so far?
Man, I think the focus has to be draft capital. I really don't want to see more players. So when I take a look at the roster that we have, if we add more young players, I think that kind of just makes it difficult for the coaching staff to really focus on like an efficient development because you have so many young pieces that you're already working with.
Sure.
I did like Bleacher Reports. Their I guess their predictions or possible targets for the Magic. I like the idea of Patrick Williams from Chicago. Really young piece that could fit good with the young core, but again, that's just another four that you're throwing in there. That is the only thing that really gives me concerns. But when you take a look at it, our vets is really Rolo, MCW, Etuan Moore, Gary Harris, Terence Ross.
Yeah.
I agree with the fact that you do have to keep one of them. I think that it's just Terence Ross's time. He's the only survivor of the Hennigan era. He's not a player that I would necessarily tie with this front office's player per se. And he's definitely has is he the oldest on the team or is it Rolo? I think
Rolo is older by like a year.
Yeah.
Too.
And as much as I love Terence Ross, I think that you would definitely get more for Terence Ross than you would for Gary Harris, just with everything that in my opinion, Terence Ross is able to bring. I just hope that we are able to get draft capital. I don't even care if it's for next season or 3, 4, 5 seasons down the road, just to be able to have that in our arsenal. Just kind of thinking of all the young pieces that we have now. And then us focusing with that draft capital kind of puts us in the range of kind of what the Thunder have been able to do with being able to collect those assets. So I hope that that's the route that we go with, because I already like the young pieces that we have on top of the draft pick that we're going to get in the next couple months.
Here's my thing. I don't necessarily – young players are not my motivation, depending on the player, depending on the position, right? I agree with you that we already have so much player development to do, particularly if we think everyone on the team is going to be on our team next year as well. Some of these players like RJ Hampton need a lot of work. Some of them not so much, but there's definitely some work that needs to continue to be done on this team as far as player development. They're going to have their hands full. Plus we're going to have a high first round pick this year, potentially a high second round pick, assuming that they use it. Maybe they punt it. I don't know. But I imagine that they'll use it if they don't acquire another pick. And then, yeah, like, so I don't think a young player is my necessarily goal. It's either going to be, and realistically, I don't even know if I want, like, if I'm sure draft call will be a part of it, but really I would prefer to find another veteran that's either on their second contract or a decent length on their third contract, someone that's not like too old, like too washed, but like can still contribute and be like a leading veteran vocal factor to this franchise. Now, I haven't played with all the trade machine. I haven't really gotten into that aspect of the trade deadline yet, but like, you know, if we were to trade Ross to the Jazz, right? Like a Joe Ingles type of player would be awesome in return for that. You know, he's starting to come down a little bit, maybe not as impactful for the Jazz if they're really trying to mix things up. I don't know if that makes sense from a Jazz perspective, but like from a Magic perspective, like if they're kind of starting to wash on that, like he's the type of veteran. I think he's got a couple of years left on contract, fits a need for the team, plays hard, good culture guy. You know, he's like, that's the type of return I hope we could get. Like, you know, not a top tier veteran that's, you know, gonna like want to leave right away. Someone that's maybe a tier or two down that could grow with us as we're starting to put some wins together. It's going to be an interesting deadline. I'm really excited to see what happens. I mean, there's a situation where, you know, Ross, Harris, Bamba, maybe even Rolo are all gone off the team at the same, you know, like I don't think a lot of people have thought about this, but Rolo is a pretty solid center still, right? Mm-hmm. He could easily go play backup minutes for another team, and he's got a very reasonable contract. He's expiring, he's only getting paid $5 million, right? So, you know, to bring a veteran center like him for a playoff team, like maybe the Bucks that might need a backup center since they weren't sold on DeMarcus Cousins, like bring him back and fill that need. Like that's a possibility, you know? I don't know. There's a lot of things out there.
I think that's a good point, just because we've already seen Mo Wagner play so well lately, and just having that fourth center may be a little too much as is. But I like the fact that you have somebody like Rolo's caliber, that he is a vet's vet. Yeah. And I agree. I think that's really, really important. You know, you and I, we've talked about, you know, how much we wanted Vince Carter to be able to be in the locker room with the young guys to kind of really show them the way. If we're able to get a vet like that doesn't really demand to play, but can really help the team out during the during practice, in the locker room, during the games, someone that can really be in there and be able to get the young guys, you know, squared away and all together. Someone that comes to mind is Udonis Haslem for the Miami Heat, and how he's able to really, you know,
culture setter.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that part is important. That's part of the reason why I haven't, myself, been fully sold on letting Terence Ross go.
Yeah, I agree.
Because he's the longest standing Orlando Magic player that we have. And once you let that go, then you really have a very new team, to where they still have to be acclimated to the culture that we have, that we're still trying to build.
Anthony, I agree. And like the good thing is, if he wants to stay here, he's got a kid in school at this point, now he just built a beautiful home. If he wants to stay here, I'm in no rush to move him because, he is a little bit more versatile where, he can play the 3 and the 4 and the 2 and the 3. I think he takes away a little bit from player development because as soon as the ball's in his hand, it's going towards the hoop. Where as far as like Gary Harris, like the ball moves a little bit more. He's a little bit more complimentary. I would love to re-sign Gary Harris. I realize it's probably not realistic, but I've been yelling about like, let's get that conversation out and get expectations going. We'll overpay to keep him because he's young. He's been in high playoff games. I think a lot of players get along with him, but at the same point, back to Ross, if he wants to be here, I'm not going to rush him out the door. Sometimes having someone that wants to be here is going to be more useful than more valuable than a protected first round pick, right? No one's giving us an unprotected first round pick unless it's like a high end caliber playoff team that's going to be a top 20 pick anyways, right? Or bottom 20 pick. So, at the end of the day too, like if we really do need to trade him after this season, like we'll still get decent value for him this summer too, because he'll have a full year, not an expiring to an extent, but not like a trade deadline expiring like Gary Harris is right now. So
yeah, my biggest concern for Terence Ross was early in the season, he really didn't seem like he wanted to be here. Like his body language was really off. He wasn't playing really well other than a couple standout games. I feel like that's changed around a lot. Definitely most recently, but I guess it really just does depend on whether or not he does want to be here. I mean, he really hasn't had a choice of where he wanted to go other than him re-signing with the Magic. But you go from Toronto to Orlando, but he really hasn't had that chance to say, I definitely want to go there.
Right.
That place fits me. Right now, this team doesn't fit him. He re-signed because it
did at the time.
Fournier. At the time it did. Now all his guys are gone.
I have a theory on why Gary Harris and Terence Ross started the season so off. I think it was just so much change from what they're used to, right? They're both used to veteran teams that were either in the playoffs all the time or fighting for the playoffs on a yearly basis with the Magic. And then Terrence's entire team gets flipped, new coach, new coaching staff, all new teammates for the most part, outside of a few, as far as who he's actually on the court with. Gary Harris starting his career off with the Magic, coming off the bench instead of as a starter, probably still dealing with a little bit of injury. I think he missed some of training camp or something like that, or preseason. I don't remember exactly when his injury happened at this point, but there's just like a lot of new for those guys. So, anyways, well, fellas, I'm going to end the conversation here. I have to go to a parenting class or birthing class, Anthony, as you understand. I have that is starting in about 7 minutes for me. So Magic fans, a little bit of a shorter episode today. Al, Anthony, I really appreciate you guys coming on. You guys do killer work at the Ozone Podcast. I don't listen to a lot of Magic podcasts anymore, but I do still tune into you guys fairly regularly and loving the content that you guys are putting out. So I imagine all the listeners of my podcast will know about your podcast because at this point, you guys have the bigger platform than I do. You and Six Man Show kill it with your consistency and the growth that you guys have done. But in case there are any listeners that are not familiar with who you guys are and what you guys do, why don't you guys go ahead and sign off and tell the people where they can find you and what kind of stuff you have coming up if you have anything to plug.
Anthony, go for it.
Oh, so we're a couple episodes away from celebrating our 100th episode. Other than that, we're still trying to figure out what we want to do as a giveaway. But Instagram is really where our platform is. You can follow us there at Orlando Magic HQ. That's where we kind of drop all our episodes and everything up to date for the podcast. On Twitter, we have it as the Ozone Pod. What is it, Al?
The Ozone Pod.
Yeah, he's the one that runs it, so he would know better than I do. But man, hey, Steven, we appreciate you having us on this episode. Always a killer time, just being able to sit back, hang out, and talk Magic basketball. And hopefully our listeners they get a chance to get to know you a little bit more. And we share the same listeners.
Right.
Keep it easy.
Yeah, man, for sure. And, I want to do more of these cross-platform podcasts throughout the season. It's not fun to just do it once a year. We should be doing this more often. So hopefully we'll connect maybe a little bit later on down the season.
Yeah, a lot of things to look forward to. For sure.
All right, Magic fans, thanks for tuning in. Al, Anthony, thanks for joining us. Hopefully we get another dub at this homestand. And, hey, as always, let's go Magic.